magic word. Here we go. Okay, so I have the pleasure of introducing Bonnie and Sam. For those of you who didn't read closely the description, these two lovely ladies are joining us from Amsterdam, from the Netherlands. They're actually about 3 hours north of Amsterdam. So it is now 4:25 a.m. in the morning. And we've had Bonnie before, but this time, once upon a time, Bonnie tried to teach her daughter, Samantha, Angular. This should have been easy because Bonnie is an Angular GDE and Sam was excited to learn. But it turned out Sam is dyslexic, so it's hard for her to learn just by reading text. Videos are easier, but most programming tutorials are still full of text. So Sam set out to change the world in Angular for the visual learner, and Angular for the visual learner began. If you remember Sam's early efforts with claymation, which I think we'll get to see, wait till you see what she's doing now with digital 3D. This year, Bonnie left Enterprise Consulting and joined forces with Sam. Together, they're bringing the Angular docs to life in a fun, visual way in live workshops on angularnation.net. Bonnie visited us last year to show us dynamic component architecture, but it was 4 a.m. in the Netherlands, so Sam was asleep. This year, Bonnie told Sam how much fun she had visiting us, so they're both waking up early to see us. If you'd like to learn about Angular's isolated change detection, grab some coffee, or if you want to sleep tonight, for those of us on the West Coast, grab a hot glass of milk or something, and come learn Angular the easy way with Sam and Bonnie. So take it away.
I'm so excited to be here. I don't have warm milk, but I have slides that I'm very excited to see, to show.
Great.
Well, my mom is
all right, you're driving, Sam.
Okay. I'm just going to share my screen here and find my notes. There we go. Can you see my slides?
Yes, we can.
All right. So I'm Sam. This is my first middle of the night meetup. I'm very excited to be here. Hopefully we will get to see you all in person someday, but for now, it's nice to meet you all. Mom, do you want to say a little bit about Angular Nation before we get started here? Who you are?
Yeah, Art already found his way in and joined, so welcome, Art. It's a private network, so you just have to put in your email address, but basically we're really starting to grow, and we have a lot of free events, and we have all the testing experts coming we really have a lot of Q&A panels. I really like to bring the people together and just turn on the cameras and have everybody chat. Fridays, we have Friday socials where people just literally are just hanging out and chatting. Some of the stuff, and we have a lot of people from all over the world, which actually has been kind of fun in itself, just to like hang out with people from all over the place is fun. Then we have tutorials, anyway, it's like Stack Overflow, but much nicer, basically. Everybody's super supportive. We have experts and beginners and any level of skill. I see Art already found the Enterprise Architects channel, which is just because Enterprise Architects face different, challenges. So we have a channel just for them. And Minko is actually coming to see us on Monday to talk to us about, he's actually gathering feedback. And so we're having a thing. And anyway, we just have a lot of, it's just cozy.
It is. I agree. So
it's nice. You're welcome. Come and join us.
This is straight.
Yes, we do.
Courses. And we teach very visually. I think for me, if I'm bored or if I don't remember it, so I have to make it very interesting. I have to sing and dance to learn it, or I have to make this little robot, and he's going to help us today. That is Dom. And I think I have another slide about Dom later, but we will see him later in the talk. So today we are going to go over messy slow versus clean and fast. So this is an app that we have for a demo in our course. And it's the messy slow child versus the clean fast child. So not real children, but I think it's really funny. So one is done with all of the wrong ways that we would not recommend, and the clean fast child is like it's the good child. and it is done with all the performance hacks and all of the little tricks. And so we're going to take a look at the difference between the two, which is very exciting. It's like art, you guys, not like the person in this call, but I'm sure he's very artful too, but it's like a work of beauty. It's fantastic. I can't wait to show you. And then second, we have impure pipes and change detection. And this is like it's like a fun little plot twist in that section that you're not expecting. It's really cool. Well, maybe you are expecting, but we'll ask and see if anybody can guess the trick before we get there. So I'm excited. All right, here is
And I have
Dom.
code to go with all of this.
Yes, we'll show you code too.
So later
And-
on, we're gonna switch to my screen, and then
Yes, and we'll try to leave room for questions, definitely. So this is Dom. He is going to help us throughout this course. He visualizes what's happening at runtime. So he actually is, and it'll make sense in a little bit, but we're going to look at, basically the point of Dom is to keep him happy. So he's interacting. I've animated him with this page that we're going to see later. I'm not doing a good job explaining this, but this is Dom, and he's going to help us. And he's our little teacher, a teacher's assistant in the computer. All right, so first off, we have performance in the code. This is ng everything. This is the thumbs down. This is the messy, slow child. And this, if you can see the ng models, all of the nested structural directives, it's a mess. It's giving me a little bit of anxiety looking at all of
but this is pretty typical. We see this a
And it
lot.
works.
This is
Yeah.
how I wrote. This is how I always wrote my code for a long time. This is very, very common, and the code works.
It works, yes, and it will. But when you get to an enterprise app, once this is scaled and your data has 10,000 items, which is what you want, that's good. But this will cause performance problems later down the line. So this is what we don't want later when it scales. So the flippy thumb, the flippy thumb, the good way.
I love the flippy thumb. I got such a kick out of that the first time I saw it. It's just she's just so creative. I love this.
Okay,
It's
so
fun.
this is broken into separate components. There's nothing is being repeated all over the place. Basically the logic was removed from the HTML, put in its own component. So can we just look at that? This does the same thing. These are the same code and they look identical on the web page. So it's
and this one has several more components too that go with it. It's not magic, but it's just cleaned up. And this is what we're talking about.
yes.
Yeah.
So we have the search bar was broken into its own component. This one, the search functionality is right here in the file, and not clean, not dry, not dumb. So this is better. Does that make sense? Are there any questions? Any comments?
Yes, exactly, Art. Separation of concerns. Absolutely. And there's a lot, and we're going to talk about this a little bit more, but Angular actually will do a lot of work for you if you follow the best practices.
I can't see the comments, so if there are questions or anything, y'all are going to have to read them to me, if that would be okay.
We will.
Okay, thank you. All right, so that is, woo. Okay, now we have, okay, so remember the first one, the thumbs down. We had the messy everything, the nested structural directives. And here's DOM. And this is what we don't want, because this is what's happening behind the hood. When the page is loading, you've got Dom doing all of this work, switching out everything. His little antenna's blinking red. And this is not what you want,
stressed
right?
out.
He's stressed out.
And all the code works, but there's just so much logic at runtime that's happening. That's a lot of work for him.
Yeah. So we want to keep him happy, ideally, and don't stress him out. So all of these structural directives, it's a lot of work to do, right? So this is what's happening behind the hood. Sad little robot. It makes me sad. I don't like to see him sad. I didn't add the good one, but I should have, because I don't want to leave it on that note. But I have a happy one. Just picture in your head, he's happy and he's not doing any of the work and he's just throwing them up there and he doesn't have to look at it, right?
We're going to see him happy. I think it's in there.
We'll show him happy. So,
yeah.
Complex pipes. So putting, I think in the first one, we had the search functionality in a pipe in the HTML right there. And
Oh yeah.
once you start nesting those pipes, it gets complex, right? If you're just doing like a sentence case pipe or changing the style of text, it's very fast. Angular is wicked fast. So it's not really an issue, but when you have functionality in your pipes and several pipes in your HTML, you've got things going over and over and over again. It gets really messy, and it looks like this, right? This is how I picture it. Pipes
And if
for
I can
pipes.
add, pipes really are meant for formatting the view. Like if you have a date, format or uppercase or, anything like that, that's what it's meant for. What you want to avoid specifically is filtering a collection in a pipe. What you want to do for that, instead of putting it in a pipe, which you could and it would work, but it's going to be slower. You're not going to see those performance problems unless you have a large application. But you want to really, keep those good habits now. What you want to do instead of putting it in a pipe, if you're filtering a collection like a search bar, then you want to basically do it in the TypeScript and then just do like let item of filtered items in the HTML.
Mm-hmm.
And if you
Yeah,
don't
so
believe me, put a console log in your pipe, and then you'll see it going crazy when you it's just a lot more activity than you need.
yeah. So imagine this one with like 100 of those names going through, and you're waiting for all of that to happen. So it's not just one, you've got like 100 going through this all in a row. Which, wait, we will show in like 2 seconds, so I don't have to imagine anything. Okay, so impure pipes. Pipes are pure by default. So this is like a don't try this at home kind of thing. But we just want to see like what happens, if we do everything crazy and try to break it, basically, which I think is what was that. I think that was our plan when we did this. Let's make impure pipes. It'll be fun. All right, so
Because we want to see what does that mean and how does that work? And
right.
really, this is like the visual part of it. And everything that Samantha and I do, it takes a long time to make these courses because we really want to see, and especially with Angular, like you can see HTML and CSS easy, right? But with Angular, there's abstract stuff going on under the hood. So it's not that easy, but it's really fun when we finally get it all working together.
Yeah, because it's it's easy to see with these animations why you don't want to do this. So
yeah,
let's look
hopefully.
at that. So this is
I forgot about this one. I love this one.
Yeah, this is the animation of the impure pipe and what's happening. So we're gonna see.
And then when we finish this, we're gonna switch over to my screen because I have this actual code. This is this UI that we built.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a super simple demo UI. It's meant to be super simple and it's all automatically generated. It's like lorem ipsum and everything. And so we're gonna show that in a minute, and then I'm gonna go through exactly what she said with the live code.
Right. So very quickly, it's coming in on the left is camel case, and it's just being reformatted to beautiful code. That's it, super simple. But the kicker, it goes down this page. Everything, even the things below what your user is seeing, like they're not even looking at this, and your pipe is doing everything like over and over and over again. And anytime they search in this bar, just imagine this like it's gonna keep like you're not even looking at this stuff, So Dom
You
just
don't need to re-render every single one all the way down every time something
Dom's in red.
changes.
Yeah. So this is not necessary. So you want to look at the code? This is the point. Bless you. We are going to look at the console logs. You're okay. Here we go. Yep. You want to show us the code? Now's the time.
Let me show you the code. Okay. Let me see if I can take the screen share here.
Okay, I think I stopped sharing my screen. Okay, yeah. Cool.
Okay, can you see my code?
Yes.
And I also want to open up our little local host here. Oh no, I need to hit my ng serve. Okay, so this is the the code that she talked about, there's the messy slow component, the messy slow child, and the clean fast child. There's the clean fast child. There's the messy slow child. And so there's not magic for this, but what we did for the clean fast child, as you see, we just made our own components, right? There's the search, DD is for demo DOM. So this is the search, and this is the author list, and this is the article list. So it's pretty simple. And then these components here are really simple, right? It's basically the exact same code, just broken into components. Very similar. We did one-way data binding instead of two-way data binding, and a couple of different things to clean it up just for hygiene. But basically, it's meant to be exactly the same code, just messy and slow. And then we want to talk about why. So this is just a good example. And we're in this section. Okay, so these are all automatically generated avatars, right? And I printed out the attributes that come with each one, but they actually had 15. So when I click here, show more, it's going to show me all of the attributes for each one, right? And then if I click show less, it's going to go back, and you see that sentence case pipe. So let me go and let me open my console log here. Okay, so, I have to go turn on that because I want to see, let's go look at the sentence case pipe.
Yeah,
and this is just regex. This is really, it's meant to be very simple, but I want to show you something. And so what we do is we have a counter here, right? And the counter is just for looking at this change detection. So we have a counter, and then basically every time the pipe runs, we're gonna add something to the counter and then console log it, right? So let's save this, and we'll go back and we'll see. And how many do we have here? How many authors? 1, 2, 3, 4. I think we have 5. Or how many? Oh no, we have a bunch. Okay, I think we have 5. Okay, yeah, we have 5. Okay, so each author is showing 5, right? Accessories type, avatar style. Each author is showing 5 attributes, and we have 5. So we have a total of 25, right? Make sense? Okay, so if we clear this out, then we show more. Then can anybody tell me how many times the sentence case pipe is going to run?
Is it impure right now?
I think it's pure by default. Let's check.
I think it's.
It is. Oh yeah, it's impure. Okay, let's do it. We're going to try it first as a pure pipe because it's pure by default. And then we'll look at the impure behavior. Okay, so there's 25. It ran once for each time that we show. And then if we click this, how many times will it run if we click this? Anybody guess? Twice?
It's gonna run 5 times.
5 times? Well, it's got 5 now, and it's going to have 15 after we click it.
So I think it's going to run 15. Yeah, 15, right?
Right?
I can do math
for it. And the counter doesn't reset each time. So we already had 25, and then we added 15 more because we have 15 here, because that's a pure pipe, right? So all of these down here did not rerun. Does this make sense? Okay, so now if we change it to impure, so this is impure pipe, right? And then can anybody tell me how many times it's going to run? And I just want to tell you, this is a trick question because it's not going to do what you think it's going to do.
Here's the plot twist. I think it's going to run 1,000,000 times.
Yeah,
Over and over and over again.
I was going to say lots and lots.
I'll get it again and again.
Lots and lots.
Yeah. All right, let's refresh this. Hold on, let me save it. Let's refresh. We got the impure pipe now. And let's refresh. Let's refresh this over here. Okay, we got it running 25 times. Now we click here, right? And it's going to run over and over and over.
Yep, lots and lots.
Any other guesses? Okay.
Nope,
click
lots
it.
and lots.
Nope.
Nope.
No, it ran 15 times.
Huh.
Why? But it's impure. I know, Art. I said the same thing. I was like, what the heck? I was so confused because because This is the tutorial. We're showing the impure pipe, and it's not doing. And I was so confused. I had to call Sonder, another GDE who's a friend of mine, and ask him why. Why is this not
Why is my
this
code
is
so
not
good?
I was so confused. And do you know what he said, Art? I'm going to stop for a minute, and I'm going to let you think about this. Do you know what he said? Why it's not doing what I thought it would be doing?
Let me tell them. Please let me tell them.
Just give him a minute.
Okay.
I didn't know, by the way, and it was obvious to me after he told me, but I did not know before he told me. But I'm just going to wait for a minute and see if anybody has guesses. Why is this not doing what we think it will do? You saw me change the code right there. Any guesses? Okay, Sam, tell him.
You're not making wait. You're not making use of the pure setting at all, even though you're changing it. You might not be using it.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Sam. Tell him.
It's isolated change detection. Angular isolated change detection.
Because you're such a nerd. Because look, we're on the clean fast child, you guys.
Yeah.
So let's switch over to the messy slow child, and let's look at this little sentence case situation again. Okay, so as soon as we switch, look, it went crazy, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot, and my computer's lagging a little because I'm on Zoom. But let's just clear this out, right? And we had a lot. I don't know how many we had, but let's just click it once. And oh my goodness, look. Like every time we click it, remember what Samantha's, and you can see now Samantha's visual, it's going all the way down the page. So obviously we know not to use impure pipes, and this is a visual of why not to use impure pipes that hopefully you will never, ever forget ever again. But more interestingly, this actually was kind of we accidentally discovered really a visual way to explain. Let's go back to look at this, right? Remember this here and this? Really, this is what Sonder said when I said, why isn't this doing what I think it will do? He said, because Angular's built-in isolated change detection will, like, this is one of the reasons why we want to break things down into smaller pieces. How cool is that? That's what we wanted to show you guys. And yeah. This is visual. Right? So we're trying to like teach all of these Angular concepts, but we want to show you visually. Yeah. So that's just a little.
My biggest question is, why should I care? You know? So
exactly.
That. Like, that's the biggest question we have. The biggest answer we have is, why do we care about this? Well, let me tell you, isolated change detection is very fun to say first, and second, very performant. So if you ever want to teach anybody about isolated change detection, I suggest starting with isolated change detection. So
do you see why she's so much fun to work with? How can you have that energy at 4 a.m.? Well, because she went for a run, that's why. Crazy girl.
So much fun.
Okay, we intentionally left time for questions because we always leave time for questions because it's, you know, questions are like half the fun. Yeah. Does anybody have questions?
Yes. Tell us how you, we have a slide still, just a few more slides.
Oh yeah, we have a few more slides.
But if anybody wants to jump in, tell us how you're feeling.
Nice to meet you, Carrie.
And
yeah, let's go back to the slides. I'm going to turn off my screen share, give the screen share back to Sam. And this is just a little part of our DOM course, by the way. Okay. And we also have an architect course, but basically all of our courses, we're going to make more courses as fast as Samantha can make the visuals and as fast as I can make the code. But all of our courses will be like this, like visual, very interactive. We always have office hours too. Every one of our courses has office hours.
Okay, well, before we go back to the slides, I realized that I only had unhappy DOM in our course. So I'm jumping into our course, what we are not sharing today, just so I can show you a happy DOM. Yeah?
Yeah.
I want to see a happy DOM. I don't want to leave it on that note. So this is filtering your collections, and we talk about how when you put all of that search, let me just show you very quickly because it's much.
We're going to show you a little more of the course. really quick.
It makes sense.
If we're not careful, we'll just keep on going and just give you the whole thing. We're bad
It'll be
about that.
super quick. I
We really
promise.
like
I'll keep it
teaching. We
quick.
have fun.
I just get so excited. So
No,
when you
it's
have to,
fine.
so this is Dom filtering all of that. This is the messy slow. He's filtering everything from the HTML, right? You've got all of those structured components. So he's got this whole collection. He has to check every card before, and imagine him keeping going down the whole page, right? So
Poor Dom. Look at the face. Oh.
that's your messy. You've got it filtered in the HTML, the flippy thumb, filter it before it gets to Dom in the TypeScript. And that way he doesn't look at anything. He just throws them up there. He's a happy guy. It's very good. Well, he's a girl. You know what? Dom's a girl.
Because and it's because he doesn't have to do any logic at runtime, and it's ready to go when he gets it, and all he's got to do is just throw it up there, easy breezy, and that's why it's going to render so fast on the page.
But yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So that is Happy Dom, and let's just run back over here and get back. You can see my slides, right? Yes.
Yeah.
We can see Angular Nation.
Okay, cool. So AngularNation.net, that was part of our course, but we have a lot more of Dom unhappy, and we have a lot more of Dom happy, and we have a lot more flippy thumbs. So we have several courses now, two to be exact. The Angular Architects course and the DOM manipulation course. That was part of the DOM manipulation course, but it's 4 hours of content.
There's also several free. There are several free courses on Angular Nation. There's a beginner RxJS that was written by Jan Nicholas Wortman, who is on the RxJS team. There's an intro to CLI schematics by Natalia, who's another GDE. She's amazing. I cannot believe it's free. And then there's a reactive forms course. There's several courses that are completely free, and they're amazing.
Yes, and this is ours. This is one of them, the architect training, which is also very visual. And
this is an old slide though. This is from July. So the July training is running right now, and we're in week 3. Sorry, I'm sorry, Sam. I keep interrupting you. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're absolutely.
Because I'm so excited.
But yes, so we will have more coming up. It is very exciting. This is also an old slide too, before anybody calls me out.
I'm sorry.
So we will have more coming up. We schedule them, I think, almost monthly. But yeah, and I think that is it. We're back at the beginning where we started.
Where it's
San Diego.
San Francisco.
We started in San Diego and we ended in San Francisco.
It was a tour, yes. We moved the sands. I was really wondering why. I knew I put San Francisco and I changed it. Now I found it. Okay. So, good morning, San Francisco. Also, if you're in San Francisco, I don't know where you are. Okay, that's it for my slide.
Anyone could be anywhere, right?
Yeah, exactly. I did that on purpose.
Oh my gosh. I want to know how long you've been programming, Sam.
My mother, you guys, I got grounded when I was 8 years old, and my punishment was I had to make a website. I was grounded for the entire summer, and I had to make a website to get ungrounded. And
she was grounded for the entire summer or until she finished her work, and she could not get the Xbox back ever until the work got done. So either you complain all summer or you get busy and do it. And she actually had like requirements, like a client, like it has to have links that work. And it was just HTML and CSS. It was very simple. But here's the thing, if you have kids, the point of this punishment was not for her to learn how to code, because as soon as she got the Xbox back, she just left it alone and she didn't want to code anymore, right? She didn't want to code. Kids don't care about that they don't care about career paths at that age. The point of that assignment at that age was just to let her know that she could do it. And it wasn't because I never even tried to code until I was in my 30s, because I thought programmers were some kind of freaky geniuses. And it was so intimidating that I never even tried. And then once I finally started making decent money, after all those years, and so I wanted her to know from a very early age that it was not so intimidating. And I just wanted her to have that kind of fearlessness. So that's why I made her do the code, so that when she went back, which actually did work, by the way, when she went back later in junior high and high school and started picking up coding, it was like, oh yeah, that's easy. Because she didn't really, even when she was in high school, she didn't care about coding I tried to tell her what you said, Sam, when I was like, hey, Sam, you should be a developer.
I don't want to follow.
Can you
in
do
your
it like you did when you were in
footsteps.
junior high?
I
Huh?
don't want to be you. I don't want to follow in your footsteps. It might be your
Yeah.
dream, but it's not my dream.
Like, no
But, like,
offense, Mom.
Money. Okay. Money. My 8-year-old
didn't
self does not
care.
understand. Money.
She was like, I don't want to hurt your feelings or anything, but I don't want to follow in your footsteps, okay?
It's not cool.
And it's just like,
okay?
listen, people will pay you for this. So when she was a teenager, I would actually I would basically bribe her, right? If she wanted to have, you know, a new gadget, a cell phone or something like that, I would say, well, you can earn it. And then she would earn it with code. And then that was, so it was like a little, you know, carrot and stick. I mean, you guys wouldn't code unless somebody paid you. So it's the same thing. And that is actually how. So if you have kids, bribe them.
It works.
And then because it's not about, like, they don't have that intrinsic motivation to earn money. They don't care about that. They don't care about paying rent at that age, but they do care about video games. They do care about a new game for their little thing, right? And so that's how you, but then by the time she figured out what was going on, she was like 16, that she had enough coding skills, not only to travel with me at speak at conferences, which was part of the motivation for her, but also she learned enough Angular and enough HTML and CSS that she was actually working for me on a project as a junior developer when she was in high school, making $25 an hour. So tell your teenagers that if you have kids, when she was still in high school. But she could not do that until after she learned it. So she couldn't get paid $25 an hour unless she already knew how to write the code. So there was this whole thing that took years. But she didn't care about the code when she was a kid. So it was like this whole, you know, psychological warfare thing.
Art has a
I tricked her.
Question.
Yeah, Art has a good question.
So I'm going to read this because I can emulate it the best, I think. So simply separating out the views into individual components automatically kicks in the Angular isolation. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly, Art. Yes.
That was
so.
a good
I didn't even
emulation
know
of yourself.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And I discovered this quite by accident while I was creating this curriculum. I didn't know, and I said the same thing as you. I was like, why isn't this? Because the whole point of the sentence case pipe, the whole point of that, she had already done the animation, and it took a long time. It takes a long time to make these 3D animations. And then I'm looking at the code going, why isn't it doing what it was very confusing for me. And I'm a GDE, right? So I was like, why is that happening? So I thought that was really interesting. Yes, separating out the views kicks in the isolated change detection that comes automatically in Angular. How cool is that?
Is it
Very cool.
Critica? Is that right?
Will you say it for us?
And shout out to the computer mom teachers.
Yeah, it's like critical without L. You can pronounce it that way.
Okay.
That makes it very easy to remember.
Yeah.
Did she force you to code too?
Oh, kind of. She inspired me at that age. Yeah. And that's
I
why
didn't force you. I just motivated you.
Yeah.
Yes, it was very good. I'd say, motivation or you're grounded for life.
Rochelle, that's a good question, but I actually have one follow-up for the isolated change detection real quick. For that, does it matter if you are using the default change detection or on push change detection for your components, or is it any Angular component?
It's really good to understand all of this together. Yes, that's a very good question. This example does use isolated change detection in the clean fast child. And the clean fast child really is like all of the good hygiene, and the messy slow is just everything thrown together. And there's another thing that's really interesting, because you mentioned on push change detection. That's very interesting. I see on push change detection taught a lot. Like, we know about on push change detection, and a lot of people know to implement it. However, what I really have found, because I was doing a lot of consulting for years, like I was going from team to team like Mary Poppins. Thank you, Art. Yes, GDE is Google Developer Expert. I was going from team to team and helping a lot of teams with consulting, and I found them all making the same mistakes. And that's why I left and I went with Samantha and started teaching the same things because they're all making the same mistakes and doing the same stuff wrong. And one of them, was the same. Oh yeah, I just almost lost my train of thought. So on push change detection, what I see is that they turn it on, right? But if you have the messy slow component and you turn on isolated change detection, it's actually not helping you. You're not getting any benefit from it unless you separate the search out from the list, or whatever the input is. If the input is separate from the list, then you use on push change detection. That's beautiful, and that's the way that it's meant to be implemented. But if you use on push change detection in the messy slow child, you're not getting any benefit because it's all in there together, and so you're still going to get that behavior.
Is that just because you have so many subscriptions and so many, again, just like those live listeners in the template,
and it's all
not
happening
broken out?
Yeah, it's all together. Yeah, it's just all thrown in there, messy, which is why we called it the messy slow child, because it's messy. And then all we're doing is breaking it out. Like, I didn't add any extra functionality other than breaking it out into separate pieces and having those inputs. And I did implement the on push change detection, and all of that comes out of the box. But you just really, it's about knowing how to use it right, and then doing it in such a way that you can remember it. This is why I love the visuals I love working with Samantha, because I'm not dyslexic, but it's really helpful even for people who are not dyslexic to see those visuals, because it's about remembering it. Because hopefully you'll never ever forget this ever again.
You know, I'm a visual, like I'm fortunate, like I'm not dyslexic, but I am a visual learner. Like when I see something, I remember it so much better. So yeah, the slides were really great for me. I love them.
Can we really quick show slides really quick? Because I have an answer to Brian's
Yeah.
question in visual form really quick.
Sure.
And
I'll read Brian's question while you're getting that ready. Brian says, you mentioned structural directives a couple times and recommended avoiding them. Maybe I missed your explanation, but what is a structural directive and what is an example of one?
We did not explain that. And that's a very good question.
Right. So there are 3 types of directives really quick. A component creates what you're looking at, and this can be anything. A component it's like a box, an empty box. You can style it. You can have whatever functionality you want in your component. It's a type of directive, and the code for that is very simple. This is what it looks like in Angular and TypeScript, sorry. Structural directive, it changes the form. You use an ng-for or an ng-if, and it changes the
structural directive adds or removes
elements.
Yeah.
So this
adds or removes elements.
This is a visual for an ng-for. So it just loops over the same thing and shows it over and over again. And you can also use this to a structural directive to remove elements. So an example of a structural directive is an ng-for.
There are several built-in ng-for and ng-if are structural directives that are built in, and you guys obviously all know you can make your own structural directives, but ng-for and ng-if are really good examples of structural directives. And then there's a third kind of directive. So a component is a directive, and then there's a structural directive, and then the attribute.
The attribute directive. This is the code for the attribute directive. It changes the styles. So this one,
Yeah.
I had fun. I didn't know how to show an attribute directive, so I just
that is not authorized, Samantha.
Having some fun, you know, give her a little. Anyway, so that is the definition those are the visuals that I have for the structural directives, and yeah.
Good question.
So, thank you. I'm glad you like my visuals.
Yeah, Art, I had a meeting with Dave Shevitz, who runs the Angular docs, and I said, we really need a lot more visuals in the Angular docs. And he said, he actually took the course and he loved the visuals, but he said, if we tried to put visuals in the Angular docs, like that is such a massive undertaking. And so it would take a long time to get that onto the roadmap. And I don't know if it ever would make it onto the roadmap. So Sam and I will make visuals for all of it eventually if you give us enough time.
We are
no, Brian, don't avoid ng-for and ng-if. No, why would you do that? That's crazy talk.
But putting them all.
We love ng-for.
If you're using ng-for and ng-if for complex functionality, and those are the only 2 things that you know, then it's much easier to do it in the TypeScript. There's a better way to do that if you're doing complex functionality with ng-for and ng-if. Mom, correct me if I'm wrong.
So the basic NG4 and NGF are fine if you keep it simple. But if you're really like doing coding inside of your NG4 and NGF, that's where you're gonna run into trouble. Is that the main point?
Exactly.
If you're nesting NG4s inside of NG4s inside of NG4s and you've got NGFs all over the place, then you're good. And it's fine. And this is the thing, right? You can get away with this kind of behavior for quite a while, but as your app scales, it's going to get slower and slower and slower.
And it gets
And
more
people
expensive.
don't know why it's slow.
That's clear. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. That was a good question. I'm sorry I didn't explain that. I was just I just started running.
No, you're
Great.
doing great. It's an excellent presentation. I just
Yes.
latched
yes.
onto that one thing that I was trying to understand, and then it was gone. So I need to come back to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate that. Y'all are so nice. I'm really glad to be here. I really appreciate y'all having us.
So
Now
you
you
were-
see what I know. I told her last time I love these people. You should have been awake.
So you were
And
saying
this is just a
Friendly, laid back.
little,
Yeah.
so you were saying on the NGF, if you have a lot of complex functionality, would you just have an NGF defined and then just call out to a function or method back in the component itself? Is that what you're kind of?
oh no.
No,
Yeah,
no, no?
because when I first started with Angular, I got so excited. And I was like, NG this, NG that, NG all the things, right? I was having a great time. But really, you want to really think of Angular like a sports car and not a pickup truck, right? You don't want to be doing like the whole kitchen sink thing.
Yeah.
And so what I would do is really, if you could just have a Boolean on your NGF, give it whatever functionality it needs, like, because if something's changing, you assume it's dynamic, right? If it's really, we're going to say, if you're using an NGF, we would first assume, because really I was having so much fun with Angular when I first started, I didn't even care if it was a dynamic, right? Everything was NGF, and any variable. So assuming that it's dynamic, then really what you want to do is, like, say somebody clicks a button or something, there's going to be something, there's probably a function that's happening anyway, right? And then
Right.
you would just get that Boolean, because all you need is to have a true or false. And if you change that true or false, Angular will update the NGF for you.
Bingo.
You see?
Okay. Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing where you really, because very consistently, the craziest thing, because I did years of consulting, like I said, I was like Mary Poppins going from team to team for years. And it was really good for me to see all the different people doing stuff. And what I found very, very consistently is, and also I was traveling and speaking at conferences. And so I spent a lot of time hanging out with other Angular experts and GDEs and all that kind of stuff. And very consistently what I found, Angular experts write less code every single time. It's
Nice.
elegant, beautiful code. And this is how you get that elegant code, is get out of the way and let Angular do all of that work for you.
Nice.
And just keep it real. And if you do that and you can keep it really simple and clean, and this is the thing, is like, hopefully that this code that I've written should be super easy for anybody to read. Yeah.
That makes sense. That actually goes really well into, we did have someone ask, what is a GDE? Could you, I know Art and Sam both described it in the chat, but for anyone that's listening or watching the recording, could you just describe briefly what the GDE program is?
Absolutely. Google Developer Expert. GDEs are people in the community who are not Google employees or anything, just people in the community who teach. So basically, if you're out there learning and then teaching others, then you would be the perfect person for it. If you really like that kind of stuff, then you would be the perfect person for a GDE. And I want to give you a sneak there's a secret thing. I really shouldn't say this because I don't want anybody else to know, because it's supposed to be, but there is a private channel on Angular Nation for people who really want to be GDEs. And I'm trying to keep it quiet because it's free, and it's just a place where we give a little bit of extra attention to people who want to be GDEs, but like, if you don't know really how to do that. But I don't want you to go there and join unless you're serious about it, because I want to keep that channel kind of small, and it's kind of big. But there's a place that you can go if you want more information. And you can also Google how to be a GDE. There's a couple of pretty good articles out there about that too. But yeah, it's a great program. It's a bit of a commitment, because once you get into the program, you have to stay in the program. And the way that you would get into the program, there's like an interview process. But it's also about basically, to get started, you would start teaching. And don't wait until you're an expert. Look at Samantha. Samantha's not an expert and she's teaching, like rocking it right now. You don't need to wait until you're an expert. You become an expert while you're, because the best way to learn is to teach. You guys know that.
It's so true.
And giving a talk at one of our meetups is a great way to start that teaching journey. Just gonna self-plug that real quick.
Just jump
And-
in
and-
and it, go ahead.
Michi and Julie specifically mentioned when I came the last time that they are really supportive of beginner speakers, which I love. So if you don't
We
have
love-
experience, that's okay. You have to, your first talk is going to suck. Let's just accept that and just get it out of the way. And then you'll get better and better as you have to practice. That's our first talks were tragic,
Yeah.
So bad.
but we've done this for years. So yeah.
You only have
Yeah.
to give your first talk once. And if anybody would like to review your talk, we would love to help. And if there's anything that we can do to help you give your first talk, just let us know.
Yeah. And you can even send it to Michi and Julie and ask them for feedback because they want to make sure that they're putting on good. So they're actually
Yeah.
motivated to help you too. And it's like, yeah, we're like a big family, you know?
Yeah, and
That's
that
your
applies to like everyone here, but also like if you're someone that is watching this on YouTube right now or later in the future, reach out to us. We
Come
wanna
join
know.
the family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please join us.
So another question we had, and again, I know this was answered in the chat, but just for anyone that's watching, someone wanted to know what Sam used to make those animations, and I had that question too. So Sam, can you tell us a little bit about how you made those animations? They were amazing.
Blender. It's a free open source software, and to be honest, my passion is 3D animation. I love 3D animation, and Blender, and making these animations is actually like what I want to do with my entire life. So this making these courses is like instead of college, I'm combining programming and visualizing things and 3D animation and so Blender.
This is
Oh,
her
one more
custom
question.
internship.
We missed this one, but would the pipe isolated change detection situation, would that also apply to NGRX and such type? Is that right? I believe so.
Yes, the isolated change detection is part of Angular. So yeah, and NGRX gets a little bit complicated. But yeah,
All these
basically
different
it's
files, the components, if you break it all down into the simplest components that you possibly can, I think it would, but NGRX and the boilerplate, you know.
And people use NGRX, especially if you have a lot of components on the page. And I've seen people use NGRX to take things from one component to another, which works. But I will say, be careful with that because NGRX introduces a lot of additional complexity. And if you need that complexity, that's fine. But I have seen a lot of instances where people are using NGRX and they actually could just use a simple behavior subject, which would be way less code. So just be careful about that because and even if you are an NGRX expert, right? Even if you know how to do all that, and like I've been using all this stuff for years and I know NGRX and I've used it before, but even if you do, you should never introduce extra complexity for any project unless it's justified because you really want to keep it simple. Remember, the experts consistently write less code. Let Angular do all that work for you. Yeah. Don't get me started.
That could be
We'll
a
talk
whole
all
nother
night
talk
if you
for
let us.
sure. Oh,
No, you
yeah.
definitely want to use the right tool for the right job, right?
Yeah,
And that's
sure.
that's a
And always simple.
great example.
Yeah.
Do we have any other questions? If you have a question, you can add it to the chat. You can also feel free to unmute and ask it directly if you feel comfortable doing that.
Jump in here.
I had a
And then it's like-
comment for Keegan.
yeah.
Is Keegan still here?
I don't think so.
Okay. I was gonna say. We have a rule on Angular Nation that if you are looking for a job or if you're hiring, that you can go on professional networking and post about that so that everybody can see each other, but we don't allow it in all the rest of the main channels. And so I deleted his post and I feel really bad, but I sent him a note and said, repost it in professional networking because we absolutely encourage people to find each other. And it's free and there's like, we're not even doing anything. Just go in that channel and you can post and they can contact you directly. You just has to be in that channel because otherwise it'll get all crazy.
That absolutely makes sense.
All right, Keegan.
So I just wanted to comment, like, Sam, at one point you mentioned that like it's not easy making all these animations and getting these courses done. So I do want to say that I totally believe you. That's not easy. I can see the work that you're putting into it, but I think all those courses, it made it all look really easy, which I think says a lot. So they were all really great. So thank you so much for sharing that with us today.
I'm so glad.
I do want to.
Last time I was here with the reactive forums.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
Sorry. Last time I was here with the reactive forums talk, it was all VS Code. There were no visual. I mean, it was like, you could see the UI and you could see the code, but then I was like, I need to bring Samantha. Yeah. It's not the same without Samantha.
I mean, your talk was great before, but yeah, the visuals are definitely, it takes it to another level. So it's really great to see. And especially in a talk like this, it's really great.
Makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Well, y'all will hopefully remember, and that's the difference.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's less boring than just VS Code, but the real kicker is that you can remember these concepts moving forward from here. Think about DOM, you guys. Think about your code right now. It's in your files. Would DOM be proud, or is he sweating? So, that's what we want to leave you with.
I will definitely think of DOM in the future.
I'm glad.
And there will be more DOM.
Excellent. That's good to hear. I'm going to pause for just a couple more seconds, just in case anyone has any more questions. Oh, no. I just want to make sure that no one gets their question lost. All right, great. Well then, thank you so much, Sam and Bonnie. This was really great. Julie, do you have anything else to add before we stop the recording?
Not before we stop the recording.
Okay. Well then, thank you again. We're gonna stop the recording here.
Thank you all. Y'all are lovely to hang out with.
Well, we're not done yet, so don't leave us.